There's been some controversy recently where the new Deputy Commissioner for the Garda Síochána, who's a Canadian national, has had part of her brief removed by Garda Commissioner Drew Harris when it relates to state security. And this was specifically because it was reasoned by some people within the Department of Justice and state security apparatus that it would be inappropriate to have somebody who is not a citizen of the country overseeing matters of critical state security. Would you have any particular thoughts on that yourself?
Look, when this position was advertised, when none of our assistant or deputy Garda commissioners were available because of the fact that the pension scheme for existing Gardaí makes it prohibitive to seek a senior post like deputy commissioner, so they advertised it internationally. And at that time I warned in the Senate that no country anywhere would employ a foreign national to head up their state security service. At that time I was castigated by one of my colleagues in the Senate who told me I didn't understand equality law.
This was Senator Mary Siri Kearney, would I be right in saying?
Yeah, Mary Siri Kearney said I didn't understand equality law and that anybody applying for the post was entitled to a fair and open interview, and at the end of the interview the best person would be selected. That's all fine and dandy, but it doesn't apply to security positions. A security position is probably one of the most important positions in the state, and it should be an Irish national, the holder of an Irish passport, a person who was born and reared in this country, that fills that post.
And why is it that you feel that way specifically? I'm sure there's many people who would agree with you given the controversy around this, but just to articulate for somebody like Senator Kearney, who might say, oh well, sure, look, we just want the best person for the job, why does it matter where they're from?
Of course we want the best person for the job. Would the British, for example, appoint a United States citizen to the head of MI5 or MI6? Would the French appoint a British citizen to the head of their intelligence service? No, they wouldn't. The bottom line on it is a national security position. It is the most senior position in the country where they have access to all of the information on many, many citizens in the state, and it would be wrong to share that with a foreign national. And irrespective, I remember at the time being told, the person will take an oath to the state. People take oaths every day of the week down in the forecourts. Some of them are true and some of them are not.
Do you think that it shows a lack of seriousness when it comes to our national security that a measure like this would be considered, that we would have a non-national running our intelligence service effectively, and then we also see things like the fact that the British Air Force is essentially protecting Irish airspaces and so on? Do you think there's a lack of seriousness in the way we run national security in this country?
Yeah, firstly on the RAF thing, I can't really comment on that. I'm in the middle of a High Court case and it's sub judice at the moment, so enough said on that. But I will say this, the fact that the senior appointments people appointed a foreign national to head up our security services, our intelligence service, shows a total lack of understanding of the security of the state, the defence of the state. And if we look where we stand today with respect to our defence forces is in a state of collapse. The army has fallen below 6,500. The Air Corps is not fit for purpose, and the Navy, we have one ship protecting our economic zone. It's totally and utterly unforgivable where we have found ourselves. And the people inside here in government buildings can fob off these things and say that people like me are talking down the security situation of the country. I'm not the one responsible for the situation we're in. I'm not the one who's sitting in a ministerial office knowing that there is one ship and one ship alone able to protect our coast on a 24-hour-a-day basis. We are now the open door for drugs to come into Europe, for people trafficking. Anything you want, the West Coast is open. Come and enjoy it. It's there for any criminal that wants to use it, any rogue state that wants to use it. We have not taken security and defence seriously. We've hidden behind the nonsense notion that we're a neutral state and everybody loves us. And if we didn't even learn from the Health Service executive attack some years ago that security and the protection of the citizens of this state is the most important role for any government.
What would you say to somebody who argued that it's sort of it would be a waste of resources for us to invest heavily in our military and national defence because, of course, you referenced the cyber attack, and that I believe was Eastern European criminals as opposed to a state actor. But then when it comes to the geopolitical situation, no one's going to attack Ireland. You know, we're not in the crosshairs of any major powers that might want to invade us. There would probably be some people who would argue that side of it. What would you say to that?
Well, the first thing I would say is that nonsense argument that's put forward, what money we have, we should be putting into housing, health, etc. We are putting billions into health, billions into housing. The Finns, a country roughly the same size as ours, with roughly the same population, roughly the same GDP, they are heavily armed. Why are they heavily armed? Because they have a very nasty neighbour on their doorstep. And people say, well, Ireland doesn't have that. Well, there are no borders in cyberspace. And every day of the week, this country is attacked several times, sometimes thousands of times a day, by cyber criminals. Whether they're state-sponsored or not, it makes no difference. There are a number of legs to our defence and security. You have land, you have sea, you have air, you have space, and you have cyber. And it doesn't matter which one of them you have to put money in. Bear in mind, the government is soon to introduce a budget in this country which will show that we have had billions of a surplus to our trade this year. And it'll be clapping ourselves on the back. Many of those billions comes from foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investors will not stay in a state that is unsafe, and we are becoming unsafe. Thousands and thousands of gigabytes of data are passing through the Irish economic zone every single minute of every single day, and nobody seems to give a continental damn in this country. The Gardaí protect the cables under the sea. They don't go to sea. The Navy have no role there. You know, we're in a situation at this stage where we really need to stop, get off the stupid track we're on that we're neutral and everybody loves us, and actually get serious about security and defence. Our population deserve nothing less.
Recently, the Gardaí were saying how drug seizures are massively up in the last number of months, and that they were hailing this as a great sign that the current approach is successful and working, that they are cracking down on these criminal organisations that are trying to bring drug shipments in. In your personal view, do you think that's a consequence of the system working, or do you think it's that there's so much drugs being brought into the country by volume that we're only catching more of it?
What I would say to you is the Gardaí are 100% correct. Their intelligence systems are working really, really well. And if you look at the number of drug seizures there has been in recent times, it's a credit to the Gardaí. I have no problem whatsoever in giving them fair credit for what they're doing. If we look at the recent seizure of a ship off the southwest coast, and we look at the appalling situation where our Ranger wing were forced to use just one helicopter to capture a ship that was bringing 600 million euros worth of drugs into this country, when you would have required two helicopters, one with snipers on board and one for the fast roping operation, we put soldiers' lives at risk in that particular interdiction scenario. So we need to get real about it. We were lucky in that case, and that's all we were. We were lucky. So the Gardaí, with one hand tied behind their back, the Defence Forces with both hands tied behind their back, are doing an incredible job. The problem we have is not the Gardaí or the Defence Forces. The problem we have lies inside in government buildings here, where, for example, Gardaí are leaving in their droves because the pension scheme since 2013 makes it unviable to have it as a career. The Defence Forces are leaving in droves because the 2013 pension scheme has made it unviable as a career. We've been saying this to government ministers, we've been announcing this for 10 years. Nobody is listening. Nobody seems to believe that the damage that has been done to the pension schemes of public servants is going to cost this state billions in years to come. Young Gardaí, young Defence Force people who are doing a fantastic job are being forced out of their job. So we don't take security seriously, and if we did, we'd sit down and look at the actual problems that are causing people to leave, and we would do something about it.